Hello and welcome to the 10-minute Trade Secret Training Series, Protecting Trade Secrets While Working Remotely. In today's training, I'll discuss how to protect trade secrets while working in a remote location, whether at home, in a coffee shop, or elsewhere. My name is Russell Beck. I'm a trade secret, non-compete, and employee mobility lawyer at the law firm Beck, Riden. But although I am a lawyer, please understand that I am not your lawyer and this is not legal advice. If you feel you need legal advice, or if any of the issues that I discussed today raise any concerns for you, you should speak with a lawyer to evaluate your particular circumstances and obtain proper legal guidance. Let's get started. So we're going to ask and answer 3 questions. What are trade secrets? Why are they important? And how do we protect them? To the extent that there are specific industry requirements, like might apply to patient health information or personal financial information, we will not be covering those today. Do, however, follow up with the appropriate person at your company if you have any questions. Our first question is, what are trade secrets? Trade secrets are information that is secret and that has value because they're kept secret. Any business information can be a trade secret. Some examples are formulas like the secret formula to Coca-Cola or to WD-40, computer code and algorithms, unpublished scientific research, lab notes, bioassays, manufacturing processes and other processes, product information including plans and specifications for future products and other technical data, customer information like customer lists and summaries of customer interactions, their needs, preferences, and buying patterns, financial information to the extent that it's not public or shared with customers, discounts, profit margins, and pricing strategies, marketing strategies and sales strategies, business plans and strategies. Basically, if it has the word strategy in it, it's probably a trade secret and needs to be kept confidential. Even compilations of publicly available information and secret recipes can be protectable confidential information. Think about KFC's secret blend of 11 herbs and spices and Peggy Lawton Kitchen's chocolate chip cookies. You can find all the ingredients online, but you won't find the specific quantities of ingredients, the sequence for mixing them into the recipe, the temperature to cook them at, or how long to cook them for. That's what makes the recipe secret and therefore protectable. It's also important to be aware that things like PowerPoint presentations and Word and Excel files can be trade secrets, whether they include proprietary information or are proprietary in and of themselves. But really anything that's confidential and valuable or gives the company a competitive advantage can be a trade secret. Now, not everything is a trade secret, but you should always err on the side of caution and assume that information is a trade secret until you're told otherwise. And that's because a trade secret can remain a trade secret potentially forever, as long as it's kept confidential. So if you have questions about whether something is or is not a trade secret, ask your supervisor. Don't just assume that it's not a trade secret. Our next question is, why are trade secrets important? While the answer will depend on the particular type of trade secret, the short answer is that they give the company a competitive advantage, which provides stability to the company and to its workforce. Formulas and technical data are typically critical to the success of a product, whereas customer information enables a company to identify customers and enhance the customer experience, and thereby serve the customer better than a competitor might. And a trade secret's value may exist in a single trade secret standing alone, or it may exist in combination with other trade secrets owned by the company. In sum, trade secrets can be critical to the position or even survival of a company, and it's therefore incumbent upon all employees to protect their employer's trade secrets, a duty that exists simply by virtue of being an employee, as well as separately by contract and by state and federal civil and criminal laws. Our final question is, how do we protect trade secrets? We're going to focus on 3 perspectives: physical, technological, and administrative, or policies and procedures. From a physical standpoint, the home workspace should be designed to achieve as close as possible the same level of security as in a formal workspace. Ideally, you're working in a separate lockable room from which other members of the household are excluded. But regardless of the space itself, it's important that you do not view any company confidential information while others may see it, including family members. That means that when you view confidential information, whether a physical document or on your computer screen, you should take care to position yourself so that the information isn't visible to others. And when you've completed your work for the day, or even just taking a break, you should follow proper clean desk policies. That means that when you're not in the workspace, anything containing confidential information should be put away so that it's not accessible by others who don't have a right to access it. Turning to the technological perspective, you should always use company-provided technology whenever possible. To the extent that your employer allows you to use personal devices, those devices should comply with any applicable bring-your-own-device policy. And remember that company-owned information doesn't become yours simply because it's on your personal computer or other device, or even because you created it. From a trade secret protection standpoint, the greatest concern about working from home is that personal devices tend to be less secure than those provided by the company. In particular, remote networks tend to be less secure than those at work. So let's run through the basics. Make sure that your router meets current security standards and the firmware is up to date. If you use a wireless router and you're in a location where other people can pick up your Wi-Fi signal, for example, a city apartment or in the suburbs, the router should be set so that it doesn't broadcast the name of your Wi-Fi network, the so-called SSID. Your Wi-Fi network should also be password protected with a secure password that follows any applicable password policies. Now let's turn to your computer. Any computer used to access company trade secrets should be password protected with a strong password that complies with any applicable company password policy, and they should be changed periodically. Of course, never share your password with others or ask others to share theirs with you. The important thing to know about computer passwords, besides the need to have a strong one, is that they're designed to prevent access to the computer itself, not the information stored on the computer's internal drive. They're like having keys to a bank in which the vault is left unlocked. The result is that someone can remove the computer's hard drive or otherwise bypass the computer's operating system and read the contents of the hard drive without a password. For that reason, in addition to password protecting your computer, you should also make sure that it's full disk encrypted, meaning that the hard drive itself, where all the information is stored, is also password protected. Turning to the software, you'll want to make sure that all software, including your operating system, is up to date and that you're not running any software that's not approved by the company. Likewise, make sure that you're running good anti-malware software, including antivirus software, and that it's all up to date. You'll also want to make sure that your computer is regularly backed up through a company-approved service or process, and not to any personal backup devices or personal online accounts like iCloud, Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive, CrashPlan, Backblaze, or any others. Finally, make sure that your security settings are properly set, including that your screen locks when the computer is not in use. And what applies to your computer applies to your other devices as well, including any smartphone and tablet. To the extent that other members of your household share your devices, you'll want to ensure that they have a separate login with separate accounts and follow the same guidelines. But even with all of these safeguards in place, risks can still be posed to trade secrets by USB devices that contain malware. So never insert a USB device into your computer unless you know it to be safe. Emails, texts, and similar communications also pose a series of threats. Those are beyond the scope of this training, but as a general matter, you should always be skeptical of any emails, texts, and other electronic communications that come from people you don't know. You should also be skeptical if it's written in a way that just doesn't sound right, or if it's unusual for some other reason, such as it requests information or money when you weren't anticipating the request. Those are often indications of a scam. So at a minimum, always check the actual return address before responding. While the display name may look authentic, it may in fact mask an email address belonging to someone else. And of course, never click on links or open files that you were not expecting unless and until you have confirmed their authenticity. With the constant use of video conferencing services like Zoom, it's important to understand how to limit the risks they pose to trade secrets. That means limiting the audience to those who need to know the information, and limiting the information that's disclosed to just the information essential to accomplish the business purpose. In addition, each service typically has security settings that can reduce the risk posed to trade secrets by the particular platform. For Zoom and other video conferencing platforms, for example, ensure that to the extent available, you permit authorized users only, require a password for entry, use the waiting room to exclude people until you're ready for them to enter, use non-guessable meeting IDs generated for each meeting, turn off automatic recording and prohibit recording, and you should also ask all invitees not to forward access information for the call or to take screenshots during the call. Similar precautions should be taken for all forms of communications you use, like Slack and even standard conference call lines. From an administrative standpoint, meaning policies and procedures designed to minimize the risk posed to trade secrets, there are lots of do's and don'ts, but there are also some helpful overarching guidelines. First, familiarize yourself with and follow all applicable company policies and procedures, as well as your own confidentiality agreement. Second, if the information was not to be accessed, printed, used, shared, or disclosed before, the same rules apply. At the most basic level, you should access, use, and disclose trade secrets and confidential information only to the extent authorized and as necessary to accomplish the purpose for which you've been given access. While working remotely, we need to be particularly vigilant to ensure that all discussions of trade secrets are out of earshot and view from anyone who is around us. That includes when we're on phone calls and video calls, particularly if they're made from or received in a location, whether inside the house, on a balcony, in the yard, or elsewhere, where someone else might overhear. Finally, there are a few do's and don'ts. If you're printing trade secrets, be sure to keep the printing to a minimum and remove all documents from the printer immediately. And when you're done with the document, make sure that it's in a secure location until you're in a position to dispose of it properly, whether by shredding or otherwise. Now I'm going to cover a few what-ifs. What if information has been used or disclosed improperly, or is at risk of that happening? The moment you become aware of it, you should immediately report it to the company's primary point of contact. And that means that you also need to know who the primary point of contact is. What if you have access to a third party's information, such as information from a prior employer? Maybe the information can save you some time. Maybe it can help you connect more quickly and efficiently with customers. You may even be tempted to log into your old employer's computer network to access the information. Or you may be tempted to use the information or disclose it to others. Don't. It's probably illegal, and it's almost certainly a violation of your contractual obligations. And your current employer doesn't want you to do it either. Sometimes the confidential information of third parties has been exchanged by agreement between two companies. Typically, there will be confidentiality obligations. You need to understand what those are and be sure to comply with them. So follow the rules very closely. What you may think is just a minor technical violation of a policy may also constitute a breach or a default under contracts with third parties. I'll end with a few reminders. Don't access information that you don't have a right to access. Don't access parts of the network that you don't have a right to access. And use common sense and think before using or disclosing trade secrets. Most important, ask for assistance if you have any question about what a trade secret is or how to maintain its confidentiality. I'll leave you with this. Trade secret law is about maintaining commercial ethics. When it comes to trade secrets, if you think something is unethical, it probably is, and it's probably also illegal. Trade secrets retain their value by maintaining their secrecy, and secrecy depends on the conduct of you and your colleagues. So be mindful and be careful. Stop and think before doing anything that might expose your company's trade secrets or other confidential information. Think when you're talking with coworkers, think when you're talking with business partners, and think when you're talking with third parties. The key is to stop and affirmatively think about the risks posed to trade secrets and to use basic common sense. Thank you for your time and attention. And remember, whenever there's a question, ask it.